After graduating from college, I took out a loan to build the village's only pumping station. For 8 years, I only charged basic electricity fees just so the villagers' orchards wouldn't die in the dry season. But I was reported by my greedy uncle and an agricultural company, falsely accusing me of stealing electricity and leaking water, forcing me to hand over the management rights. So I simply signed a liability waiver, dismantled my core motor, and went to the suburb to start a fully automated ecological farm. During a year of severe drought, the villagers looked at sky-high smart water bills and mountains of dead fruit trees and pressed my good uncle alive into the mud. Earlier, I had just finished cleaning the pump's filter when my uncle, Qin Yan, brought my cousin and a few strangers with briefcases into the pump room. As soon as my uncle walked in, his eyebrows knitted into a frown. Why is this broken machine making so much noise? Qin Yan, how many years have you been using this pump? The efficiency is terribly low, and the water flow is as thin as a kid peeing. Listen, are you intentionally restricting everyone's water? Aunt Wang, who just came with empty buckets to line up, hearing this, immediately put down her carrying pole. Our village is on high ground. It's hard enough for this pump to push the water up. For 8 years, I've only charged everyone the most basic electricity fees. Just bear with it. It'll open the gate and release the water now. Come on, you say you only charge for electricity. Then why did my family pay $60 last month? Dare you say you didn't tamper with it and didn't secretly sell water to the neighboring village? Your orchard is at the top of the hill, at the highest point. Pushing the water up there naturally consumes a lot of electricity. The ledgers are all posted on the wall. Can't you read them yourself? I don't understand your fake ledgers. I just know you embezzled the villagers' money. Everyone, listen to me. This is Manager Wang from LV Yuan Agriculture in the city. They said, as long as we hand over this broken pump station to their company for unified management, they will immediately replace it with smart irrigation for everyone for free. The uncles and aunties carrying water nearby all gathered around when they heard the commotion. Manager Wang cleared his throat. Fellow villagers, modern agriculture is all about precision drip irrigation. Your outdated equipment should have been eliminated long ago. Hand it over to us, and we'll upgrade it all for free. Everyone will be able to water their fields from home using their phones. Aunt Wang, who was smiling at me just a moment ago, heard the words free upgrade and her eyes darted away shiftily. Other villagers also began to whisper, free upgrade? That's great. Yeah. Qin Yan, this pump is indeed too old. Sometimes there are power outages. Mankang has seen the world. He's definitely doing this for the good of the village. He wouldn't scam us. I looked at those familiar faces. The villagers I braved heavy rain in the middle of the night to repair lines for, helping them save their fruit trees, watching their expressions turn from hesitation to expectation, and even seeing a trace of guardedness and disgust in their eyes when they looked at me. The hand I used to grip the wrench slowly turned cold. The next day, before dawn, and before I even got out of bed, the village loudspeakers blared. My uncle, Qin Mankang, solemnly called everyone in the village to the brigade headquarters via the broadcast, with the theme of dismissing Qin Yan and embracing modernization. By the time I rushed to the brigade headquarters, the courtyard was already packed. My uncle stood on the steps holding a stack of printed materials. Villagers, water is the lifeblood of our village. We can't let Qin Yan hold it all to himself and suck our blood. The village chief walked over with his hands behind his back and said, well, everyone's intention. As for this agricultural modernization thing right now, you have to consider the big picture. Besides, your uncle said, if you don't hand over the keys, we Yuan company won't dare to come in. Afraid you'll cause trouble. Village chief, over these 8 years, when the equipment broke, I paid out of my own pocket to buy parts. When the water pipes leaked, I jumped into freezing water in the dead of winter to fix them. I haven't taken a single cent of subsidy from the village. And now you want to drive me away? Sigh. Times have changed. They have the technology of a big company. Why are you still messing around on your own? Now it's fine. And don't be too stubborn. I looked at the hundreds of people in the yard. No one stood up to speak for me. Even Aunt Wang, who was praising me yesterday for fixing the water pump and working hard, turned her head away. I am completely chilled to the bone by this place. I took out a voluntary liability waiver and asset division agreement I wrote overnight and slammed it on the village chief's desk along with the keys. Them over. Since everyone thinks I am embezzling and thinks the company is better, then sign and fingerprint right here on this. From today on, the village's water supply has nothing to do with me, Qin Yan, anymore. In the future, whether it's drought or flood, regarding the water bills, whether they go up or down, everyone is left to their own fate. Fine. Sign it then. Don't think that without you, the whole village will die of thirst. He took the lead in leaving his red fingerprint. Then my cousin, Aunt Wang, and the whole village lined up, afraid that being a step late would delay their free smart upgrade. One by one, they hurriedly signed their names. Looking at the pages full of red fingerprints, The heavy stone in my heart suddenly shattered, turning into complete relief. I put away the agreement, turned around, and walked to the pump house. My uncle and a group of people, acting like they were guarding against a thief, followed behind me. I opened the pump house door, picked up a wrench, and walked straight to the deepest part of the machine room. Amidst everyone's astonished gazes, I dismantled the high-voltage pulse generator set connected to the main pump. That was the only core component capable of pumping water up the back mountain for this old water pump system, and it was my private property that I had spent a lot of money to buy back then. But they always treated it like a broken motor. My cousin got anxious upon seeing this and shouted loudly, "Attention everyone. He's going to sabotage things. Everyone, stop him. Don't let him run off with the village's collective property." A few villagers immediately stepped forward and blocked the door. I sneered and pulled the receipt for the motor from back then and the liability waiver from earlier out of my bag. Open your eyes wide and see clearly. I spent 80,000 yuan out of my own pocket to buy this motor. Here's the receipt. The name is clearly written on it. The agreement from just now also states clearly that I will take away my personal assets. As for the factory building and pipelines you want, I haven't even touched a single screw. The whole crowd went silent at once. My uncle's face turned ashen. But looking at the black and white text, he couldn't squeeze out a single word. I was sweating profusely by the time I uninstalled that oil-stained old motor from the pump house base. Although this motor looked badly bruised and heavily chipped on the outside, anyone who knows their stuff would know that this is an early industrial-grade, high-horsepower motor with pure copper coils. Back then, to pump water from the ravine up to the highest orchard in the entire village, I visited second-hand equipment markets in 3 cities and spent a full 80,000 yuan to haul it back. Over the past 8 years, no matter how unstable the voltage was, no matter how long the pumping took, this old buddy had never dropped the ball. The motor weighed a full 200 pounds. I couldn't move it alone. I could only use wooden boards to slide it into the back of the pickup truck. The rough hemp rope dug into my palms, and sweat flowed into my eyes, stinging sharply. I subconsciously looked up at the open space outside the pump house door. No fewer than dozens of fellow villagers were gathered there. Aunt Wang, and those familiar faces whose irrigation pipes I had once helped repair in the rain in the middle of the night. They all stood under the shadow of that big old locust tree. Not a single person stepped forward to give me a hand or even offered a polite word of retention. They all covered their noses, as if afraid of catching the smell of engine oil from me, their eyes revealing undisguised disgust and defensiveness. At this moment, my cousin Qin Lei held up his phone and kept recording me. Mr. Qin, you'd better move it slowly. Don't let that scrap metal break your back. Everyone, take a look. This is our village's former water bully, fooling us with a broken industrial motor. We've had a stinking engine oil smell for 8 years. With water pumped up by this kind of machine, how could our fruit trees grow well drinking it? No wonder our village's fruits haven't sold for a good price. These past few years, the root cause is all right here. Yeah, Mankang is right. There must be heavy metals in that water. It should have been replaced ages ago. I already found that broken machine too noisy, making it impossible to sleep at noon. Have him take it away quickly. It's an eyesore. My uncle, looking utterly disgusted, holding his hands behind his back, like a general who had just won a great battle, emerged from the crowd. He deliberately wore a brand new shirt today, with bulging pockets that faintly showed the outline of a few packs of Changhua cigarettes. Those were what the people from Li Yuan Agricultural Company had just slipped to him as a promotion and hard work fee. All right, Lightsy, stop recording. Tell him to pack up and get lost quickly. Qin Yan, it's not that your uncle wants to criticize you, but you're just too stubborn and can't keep up with the times. LV Yuan Agricultural Company is bringing high-end smart equipment from the city tomorrow. It has an all-stainless steel pump body with multi-stage deep filtration. The water it produces will not only be cleaner and more nutritious than what your broken machine pumps, but they are a big company with unified management, and even their water fees are half of your so-called cost price. Folks, from now on, the water our village uses will meet the standard of purified water city people drink. Everyone won't have to stay up late at night to watch the switches anymore. Just a tap on the phone, and the fields will be watered automatically. What is this called? This is called the agricultural Internet of Things. Our village is about to get rich. Hearing my uncle paint such a wonderful picture, the villagers couldn't stop smiling, as if their eyes could already see golden ingots hanging on the fruit trees in autumn. An impatient young man spat right in front of the tires of my pickup truck, urging me to leave quickly, so as not to delay the big company's engineering trucks from entering the village. I clapped the rust off my hands, and looking at this group of people who thought they were smart, my heart turned completely cold. The agreement is laid out in black and white at the village committee. From now on, whether you get rich or not, has absolutely nothing to do with me, Qin Yan. I coldly dropped these words, opened the car door, stepped on the gas, all the way down, and left the mocking laughter of my uncle and the villagers far behind. After leaving that poor mountain village, I drove straight to the outskirts of the city. I knew that this old industrial-grade motor in my hands was seen as scrap metal by others, but in the hands of someone who truly understands agriculture, it's a lifesaver. I wandered around the outskirts for 3 whole days, and finally set my sights on a large piece of wasteland spanning a full 100 acres. The rent for this land was ridiculously cheap. There was only one reason. The groundwater level here was very deep. Ordinary civilian agricultural water pumps couldn't draw water up at all. Even if they could, the amount of water would be pitifully small, nowhere near enough to irrigate 100 acres. The people who contracted it before all lost everything because they couldn't secure a water source and eventually left in disgrace. But I didn't care. After I rented the land, the first thing I did was pay a drilling team to drill a deep well and then securely install that traditional old motor covered in oil stains onto the base. The moment I closed the switch, the motor let out a low and powerful roar, like a beast that had just woken up. Then, a water column as thick as an adult's arm violently sprayed out from dozens of meters underground. With a sufficient water source, the rest was easy to handle, relying on the agricultural experience I had accumulated over 8 years. Coupled with high horsepower irrigation, on this cheap red soil, I planted high economic value organic cherries and shine muscat grapes. My life felt like someone had pressed the fast-forward button, steadily moving towards a great harvest day by day. Meanwhile, the village was immersed in the fake bustle of modernization. The Yuan company brought in a new water pump that looked very nice on the outside. It was wrapped in a shiny stainless steel shell, covered with colorful stickers for various smart IoT features, and even came with a large LCD touchscreen, looking indeed 100 times more impressive than my old motor. My uncle, as the person who brought in the investment, instantly became a popular figure in the village. To keep this local bigwig happy, the Yuan company not only gave him a hefty kickback, but also contracted out the small civil engineering jobs of laying pipes in the village to him for a while. My uncle's family was living in great glory. Every day he carried a small bag under his arm, wandering around the village, looking exactly like a big contractor. He took the money, earned from selling out the village's lifeline, and bought a large amount of red bricks and cement, starting in the most conspicuous place in the center of the village, to arrange to build a 3-story house with a large terrace for himself. The villagers carried their hoes, looking forward with full anticipation at the newly laid thin black plastic pipes in the fields. When you pinched those pipes, they were soft and mushy, and their walls were as thin as paper. But in my uncle's words, that was aviation-grade polymer material. Everyone was dreaming of striking it rich, thinking they could enjoy cheap, clean, and premium tap water like city folks without manual labor. They had no idea that the seemingly free things in life had secretly been slapped with an exorbitant price tag. The sweet dream was shattered, starting from the day they paid the water bill for the first month. The end of May was the critical time for fruit trees to bloom and bear fruit, and the water demand was growing rapidly. The toll collector from Yuan company brought a table and sat casually in the courtyard of the brigade headquarters alongside a QR code sign. Attention, villagers, please come to the brigade headquarters to pay this month's water bill as soon as possible and activate your smart IC cards to avoid affecting regular irrigation. Auntie Wang was one of the first to go. She clutched a few crumpled bills in her hand, and her face still bore that cheerful smile of someone getting a good deal. Young man, my plot of land halfway up the mountain is only 2 acres. Back when Qin Yan was in charge, even if I calculate to the absolute maximum, I only pay 12 or 13 yuan a month for electricity. Your mankan, brother said, this premium water is half the price it used to be. It'll pay 10 yuan for today. That should be enough to cover this month, right? The toll collector was a young man with dyed blonde hair. He didn't even look up, just chewed his gum. He took Auntie Wang's card, swiped it on the machine with a beep, then tapped the keyboard a few times. The machine spat out a meter-long receipt. Fang Cheng Yan, right? Your bill for this month is out. The total is 248 yuan. Scan code or cash. If you don't pay in full, your card's water supply will be cut off tomorrow. Auntie Wang's smile instantly froze on her face. The few small bills in her hand almost fell to the ground. Thinking she had misheard, her legs went weak and she almost lost her balance. H, how much? 240 something? Kid, did you read the decimal point wrong? Are you robbing me? I only have 2 acres in total, and it costs hundreds of yuan for one watering. As Auntie Wang shrieked at the top of her lungs, the villagers in line were all stunned. The blond guy rolled his eyes hard and impatiently pointed his pen at the dense list of charges on the receipt. Ma'am, even if you can't read, you should be reasonable. It's printed clearly in black and white. Look at the first item. The basic water fee is indeed cheap, only 1 yuan per ton. That's way cheaper than what that Qin Yan charged you before, right? But this is a modern smart pipe network. We can't just count the cost of water. Item 2. Smart Platform Network Service Fee, 30 a month. Item 3. P-pipe depreciation and daily maintenance fee, 80 a month. Item 4. Because your village is on a mountain, this is the shared tiered pressurization electricity fee, 60. Plus the smart water meter, rental fee, trace element additive fee, and a bunch of other things. It adds up to this price. And this is with our company's agricultural subsidy. You think it's expensive? You shouldn't have thumbprinted and signed the contract in the first place. If you think it's too expensive, then don't swipe your card to open the valve to get lost. The faucet is right there in your own field. Who forced for you to use it? The blonde guy's words were like a resounding slap, fiercely striking the faces of everyone in the village. The news, as if growing wings, spread rapidly throughout the village, leaving everyone dumbfounded. Back when I was in charge, I bought the motors, I fixed the pipes, and I only charged according to the state grid standards for the pure electricity used for pumping water. I never asked for a single cent of miscellaneous fees. Now that LVUN company is here, they're playing Capital's favorite game of itemized charges and hidden fees, slapping on all sorts of fabricated service charges. Doing the math, the cost of watering the same acre of land has increased by dozens of times, if not more. The village was in an uproar, and the villagers were furious. Those rural women who would normally, for a few cents of vegetable money, haggle at the market for half a day, were now feeling a heartache as if bleeding. Hundreds of people clamored and surged to the village center, swarming Uncle Qin Yan. The small foreign-style house that was still under construction was surrounded by layers of people. Qian Yan, you bastard, come out and explain yourself. Didn't you say it would be half the price? Now watering the fields costs more than buying fertilizers. Are you conspiring with that company to scam us? Uncle Qin Yan was currently on the second floor looking at his large terrace. Seeing the furious crowd below, he quickly straightened his clothes and walked out, putting on airs. He was actually feeling guilty inside, because as for the company's pricing trap, he had just found out about it too. But since he had taken their 50,000 yuan bribe, he could only bite the bullet now and keep making things up. What are you yelling about? Why are you all so short-sighted? This is a large company from the provincial capital. Those stainless steel water pumps, those pipes in the fields, do you know how much they invested up front? Don't they need to recover their costs? Why are you only staring at this little water bill? You need to look at the big picture. They added nutrient solutions to the water, and it went through high-tech filtration. This is called an investment. Spending a few hundred more on water now means when the fruits grow big and shiny in autumn, and you sell them to large supermarkets in the city, you can sell them for 3 to 5 yuan more per caddy. What does that little water bill matter then? You'll earn it back several times or even tenfold if you feel bad about the money and refuse to water the crops because of it, and the fruits end up as small as walnuts. That's your own short-sightedness to blame. The villagers were bluffed by Uncle's half-true rhetoric. Although their hearts ached over the cost, looking at the pipes already laid in the fields and thinking about the contracts they had signed, they realized they had no way out. After all, the old water pump had been hauled away, and the wellhead was sealed by Luyuan Company. Left with no choice, everyone had to just swallow their grievances. To save money, the villagers started to pinch pennies. What should have been a thorough watering was now limited to just 10 minutes. Once the surface was slightly wet, they would quickly pull out the card. Instead of watering once every 10 days, they dragged it out to half a month or even 20 days. Fruit trees don't lie. Without enough water, leaves that should have been lush started turning yellow at the edges, and the small fruits on dry branches stopped growing at the size of a coin. The whole village was shrouded in a depressing and anxious atmosphere, and they could only pray silently in their hearts, hoping for a few heavy rains this year to save them from those deadly, exorbitant water bills. But little did they know that nature shows no mercy. A once-in-a-century drought that could bankrupt the village was quietly approaching in mid-July. The unprecedented summer drought arrived. For a full 45 days, not a single drop of rain fell from the sky. The small stream in Xinzi village, originally used for washing clothes, had dried up half a month ago, leaving only a cracked riverbed, and even the loaches had turned into mummies. In previous years, this was the crucial fruit-setting period for the trees, and they couldn't go a single day without water. But this year, because of Li Yuan Company's blood-sucking tiered pricing, no one dared to water their crops freely. The first to suffer was Aunt Wang's family on the mountainside. The leaves of the 2 acres of apple trees her family relied on for survival had started turning yellow and curling at the edges. With a gentle squeeze, they would crumble directly into powder. On the branches, those unripe fruits that should have been the size of walnuts were now shriveled like old bark wrapped around the core, and would drop with a rustle at the slightest touch. Aunt Wang sat heavily on the scorching edge of the field, slapping her thighs and wailing loudly. It's over, it's all over. Oh God, you're trying to force us to death. This was for my husband's dialysis in the second half of the year, and my grandson's tuition for junior high in the town this autumn. To buy fertilizer, I still owe the credit union a 20,000 yuan loan. Without water, if these trees die from the drought, our whole family will have no choice but to hang ourselves. Aunt Wang's crying was like a signal that completely shattered the psychological defenses of the whole village. Suddenly, someone shouted from the head of the village, "We couldn't care less anymore. Even if it means going bankrupt to pay the water bills, we must save the trees first." Hundreds of households, acting like crazy, all rushed to their own orchards. With bloodshot eyes, everyone disregarded everything, taking out the smart IC card they once considered a symbol of high-tech with trembling hands and pressing it against the card reader. The swiping sounds kept ringing out across the drought-stricken hills. Hundreds of valves were anxiously turned to the maximum by the villagers at the exact same time. Everyone was staring helplessly at the fields, at that black PE plastic pipe, waiting for the expensive nutrient water to flow out. But the water pipe only let out a few muffled puffs of air and a gurgling sound. Then, the valve barely spat out a couple mouthfuls of muddy yellow water mixed with sand and then went completely dead. Not a single drop of water could be squeezed out. Sigh. What's going on? I just topped up my card with 800 yuan. Why is there no pressure at all in my pipe here? Not even a puff of air is coming out. The villagers, anxious like ants on a hot pan, threw down their hose and ran towards the main pump house at the foot of the hill. Before they even got close, everyone caught an extremely pungent and burning smell. It was the wire insulation, emitting a nauseating stench after completely melting. Inside the newly built, beautiful pump house, Lu Yuan Company's glamorous aluminum-cased water pump was making an extremely dull buzzing sound. The entire casing was so hot that when people got close, they could feel the heat wave. When I used to be in charge, that industrial-grade old motor with a pure copper coil had strong horsepower and high torque. Even if hundreds of acres in the village opened their valves for water at the same time, it could steadily pump deep groundwater to the top of the hill. But this so-called high-tech water pump that Lu Yuan Company brought in to cut costs and squeeze profits is just a poorly assembled, shoddy product with severely inflated power ratings. Usually, when a dozen households take turns with drip irrigation, it can barely handle it. Now that hundreds of valves in the village opened simultaneously, the pressure in the pipe network dropped to zero instantly. This shoddy motor directly went into an extreme overload pumping state. Quick, pull the main switch. Cut off the power. Quick, cut the power. It's going to blow. But it was all too late. A muffled and violent explosion came from inside the pump house. Then, a series of blinding blue electrical sparks burst in the black smoke. That premium water pump that Uncle Qin Yan had hyped to the skies had completely blown its cylinder, and the hopes of hundreds of households in the village were simultaneously shattered to pieces. Early the next morning, Manager Wang, the regional general manager of Lu Yuan Company, slowly drove into the village in a brand new black Magottan sedan. He just casually used the tip of his shiny leather shoes to kick the pile of pump wreckage that had burned into scrap iron. Uncle Qin Yan rushed up to him as if he had seen his own father. Manager Wang, you're finally here. This machine suddenly blew up yesterday. It can't pump up any water at all. Look, with this severe drought, the fruit trees really can't wait any longer. Please hurry and have the company send an engineering team with a new machine to replace it. Replace the machine? Qin Yan, is your brain full of water? Go look at the manual yourselves. When the company issued you the cards, we repeatedly warned you that this kind of precision equipment must absolutely not be turned on in overload simultaneously. This is a severe violation of operation protocols, and it constitutes malicious, artificial damage to smart IoT equipment worth over 100,000 yuan. It was ruined just like that by you country bumpkins, and now you want the company to replace it for free? Do you think this is a charity? When the villagers heard this, they immediately exploded. What do you mean we broke it? In this severe drought, everyone needs to water their crops. That old machine before, hundreds of households pumped together and it never broke. It's obvious that your machine is just a fake, shoddy, cheap knockoff. Exactly. We paid so much in maintenance fees, and now that this watering equipment is broken, why won't you fix it? Shut up. You want to talk law with me, huh? Fine. Then do things by the contract. The equipment broke because of your own operational violations, causing it to be scrapped. Humph. You want to restore the water supply? You can. First, the whole village must pool together 300,000 yuan across all households for the depreciation compensation of this pump and the purchase and installation of a new one. Second, to prevent you from messing around and causing more damage, causing the company to suffer losses, the estimated water fee for the second half of the year, the pipe network maintenance fee, and the network platform service fee totaling 200,000 yuan must be prepaid in full to the company's account in advance, a total of 500,000 yuan. If the corporate transfer to replace the pump is short a single cent, just you wait. Your entire mountain of fruits and vegetables will become firewood. 500,000 yuan. This astronomical figure was like an invisible mountain, pressing heavily on the chests of every villager, plunging the scene into a deathly silence. The exorbitant water bills from the past few months had already drained their meager savings. They even owed the shops for pesticides and fertilizers, let alone 500,000, even 50,000 yuan. They couldn't scrape together even if they sold everything they owned. Manager Wang, you're not fixing the water pump. You're asking for our lives. When we signed the contract back then, that's not what you said, Brother Mankang, but you promised that your big company has after-sales, service, and would cover repairs. Several villagers turned their gaze to Qin Yan. Qin Yan also panicked at this moment. His orchard was the largest, and without water, had lose thousands every day. Putting his pride aside, he grabbed Manager Wang's sleeve. Manager Wang, old Wang, when we ate together back then, this isn't what you said. You were the one pushing this equipment. You bought cheap knockoffs to pocket the difference. How can you blame it all on the villagers? Aren't you setting me up? I am setting you up? Manager Wang violently shook off Qin Mankang's hand, pulled out another original contract with a bright red fingerprint from his briefcase, and slammed it right in Qin Mankang's face. Everyone, open your eyes and see clearly. Your dear Qin Mankang, in order to get the 100,000 yuan promotional kickback from the company, voluntarily acted as the joint liability, guarantor, and even signed this dual contract. Article 7, Clause 3 of the contract clearly states, should the village collective's improper operation cause damage to the equipment, and they are unable to pay compensation, Yuan Company has the right to seek recovery directly from the guarantor, Qin Mankang. As soon as these words came out, the hundreds of desperate eyes in the crowd instantly locked onto Qin Mankang. Qin Mankang's face turned as pale as paper, his whole body trembling like a leaf. Back then, he only cared about getting that 100,000 yuan cash kickback to build his mansion, and didn't even read the specific terms of the contract. He just happily pressed his fingerprint. You're spouting nonsense. That was a promotional fee. I had no idea what a joint guarantee meant. You didn't understand it? It's in black and white. Complete with your fingerprint, Qin Mankang. Go tell the judge at the courthouse that you didn't understand it. It'll give you 3 days to scrape together this 500,000. If I don't see the money in 3 days, the legal department's indictment and the court seizure order will be delivered right into your hands, Qin Mankang. Manager Wang drove off in his car, leaving behind hundreds of furious villagers tightly surrounding Qin Mankang and his son. Qin Mankang was cornered at his door and cursed at by the whole village. For a whole day and night, my uncle Qin Mankang's newly built 2-story red brick mansion was smashed to ruins by the villagers. The villagers lit a bonfire outside the door and left him with the harshest ultimatum. Qin Mankang, within 3 days, if you can't produce the 500,000 yuan to fix the pump, and if the whole village's fruit trees die of drought, well, first burn down this damn house of yours. Driven to a dead end, my cousin Qinlei hid on the second floor, not even daring to open the windows. We can't just keep waiting like this. These farmers will actually kill us. Our village doesn't have water, but Qin Yan does. I heard from the guys delivering vegetables to the city that the wasteland Qin Yan contracted in Shijiao is now some sort of eco-farm. As long as we give him a call and get him to come back and help, won't we be off the hook for this 500,000 yuan? Right. Call Xiao Yuan. I am his own uncle. Blood is thicker than water. He can't just watch his uncle be driven to death. And at this very moment, far away in the top floor banquet hall of the city center's most premium hotel, I was wearing a well-tailored haute couture suit, standing under the brightly lit crystal chandelier. The Provincial Summit Forum on the integration of modern agriculture and supply chains was taking place here. As a benchmark enterprise supported by the city, I had just partnered with the nation's largest fresh food chain, signing a 30 million yuan annual exclusive supply agreement. Holding a glass of champagne, I was chatting with the executive president of the supermarket group opposite me. Just then, my private phone in my pocket vibrated. I turned around with my glass and walked into the quiet VIP lounge outside the banquet hall. I pressed the answer button. Something terrible has happened in the village. Yuan Company's water pump blew up. The water has been cut off for 2 days now. All the fruit trees in the village are going to die. The villagers are now blocking our front door. Qin Yan, hurry back with your old motor to save us. As long as you come back and pump the water up, we'll wipe the slate clean, and you can set the water fee. Yeah, Yan, your uncle knows he was wrong. I was possessed by greed before, and got tricked by that corrupt company. You can't just leave us to die. I am your uncle. After all, if you don't come back, these people will really bury me alive. Qin Mankang, Qinlai, are you getting old? Or is your memory just worse than a dog's? Leaving the village day, in front of hundreds of villagers, who took the lead in putting their red thumbprints on the voluntary liability waiver and asset division agreement? Back then, you accused me of embezzlement and making dirty money. Just to get that 100,000 yuan kickback, you didn't hesitate to treat me like trash, sweep me out the door, and turn around to kiss up to that capitalist company. When I left, it was written clearly in black and white that from then on, the village's water supply had absolutely nothing to do with me, Qin Yan. You can't be so heartless. The lives of hundreds of people in the village. Can you bear that responsibility? Stop using the villagers' lives to emotionally blackmail me. When I put my thumbprint on that document, did any of them hesitate? I hung up the phone without hesitation and added this new number to the blacklist again. Then I pushed open the door Applause thundered in the banquet hall, where business elites were celebrating a successful partnership. Meanwhile, tens of kilometers away, in those arid mountains, the villagers forcibly grabbed Qin Yan and forced him to put his thumbprint down, forcing him to mortgage his remaining orchard and this smashed-up house to everyone in the village as compensation. Dad, I've thought of a way. As long as we sneak into Qin Yan's farm in the middle of the night and bring back that old motor to install here. Tomorrow morning, once the whole village has water, who's going to come after us for payback? Everyone might even thank us for saving the village. Qin Li's twisted logic actually gave the desperate Qin Mankang a ridiculous glimmer of hope. Trembling, he took out his last few thousand yuan from his inner pocket and stuffed it into Qin Li's hands. Lightsy, when they doze off in the latter half of the night, slip out through the back window and find a few bold guys in town. No matter what, you have to bring that motor back. At 2 a.m. that night, Qin spent a fortune in town to hire 2 idle loafers and thugs. Driving a minivan, they quietly snuck up to the outskirts of my Qin Yan ecological farm in the suburbs. In their minds, the farm was at best surrounded by a wire fence with a thatched guard hut, as long as they cut the wire fence and load the motor into the car without anyone noticing. But they had no idea that what they were facing was no longer a traditional rural household, but a highly modernized agricultural tech enterprise with assets over 10 million. Carrying a large pair of hydraulic shears, they snipped through an outer security fence of the farm and then led the 2 thugs straight toward the independent, temperature-controlled water pump room in the center of the farm. That's the pure copper motor. I recognize its base. Take off the fixing screws for me and let's carry it away. But just as one of the thugs locked his wrench onto the motor's bolt, at that very moment, above the entire farm, a full 16 sets high-intensity security searchlights simultaneously flashed blinding white light, making it as bright as day. The intense light made Qin and the others scream out loud, and they quickly covered their eyes. Immediately after, the highest-level security alarm pierced the quiet night sky of the suburbs, deafeningly loud. Before Qin and his guys could recover from the blinding light, over a dozen professional security guards in uniform black outfits surrounded them tightly from all directions. Behave. Qin was so terrified his soul nearly left his body. His legs gave out, and he fell straight to his knees on the muddy grass. Just 15 minutes later, Qin was taken away by the police. Before leaving, wearing my silk loungewear, accompanied by my secretary and the head of security, I walked out of the office building at a leisurely pace. Qin, upon seeing me, acted like a drowning man, grasping at the last straw, and started screaming hysterically and desperately. Qin Yan, quickly explain it to them. I am your brother. I just came to look at your equipment. It doesn't count as stealing. We are family. Officer, I am Qin Yan, the legal representative of Qin Yan Agricultural Technology Company, and this is our company's legal counsel. He will fully represent the company and cooperate with your investigation. The legal director behind me immediately stepped forward and handed a thick hard drive case and several documents stamped with red seals to the police officer. Hello. Here are the comprehensive surveillance recordings and the equipment asset appraisal report. The high-voltage pulse motor they tried to forcefully dismantle is not an ordinary agricultural machine. It is a core power component independently developed by our company, for which we have applied for a patent. The book value of this system is assessed at 400,000 yuan. These individuals destroyed security facilities, carried professional tools for committing the crime, and forcefully dismantled it. This constitutes a typical case of attempted gang burglary. Furthermore, because the targeted item is a core corporate asset, once dismantled, our thousands of acres of crops will face the risk of water cutoff and withering. The potential economic loss is up to several millions. This is by no means an ordinary public security case, but a major criminal offense of extremely egregious nature with massive impact, and it also involves the intent to disrupt corporate production and operations. You can save your excuses for later. Get in. Qin Yan, you heartless wretch. You'll get your retribution. The news of Qin Li's criminal detention spread back to the village early the next morning. This news, for my uncle Qin Mankang, who was already on the verge of a breakdown, was simply like a bolt from the blue. To scrape together money, to hire a lawyer to bail his son out, and more so to deal with the double debt collection from the villagers and Lu Yuan Company, he had no choice but to target those completely unripe, defective goods on the mountain that even birds wouldn't eat, and forcefully pick all the apples off the trees, filling 3 whole large trucks, and try to haul this garbage to the city's largest fresh produce wholesale market to try his luck. In his pitifully limited understanding, there are many people in the city, so as long as the price is kept low enough, there will always be greedy small vendors willing to buy them. But he had no idea that times had long changed, nor did he know that the largest core supplier for this fresh produce wholesale market was the exact person he had personally driven out of the village, me. That morning, Jiangnan Fresh Produce Market was bustling with noise. Qin Mankang stood covered in dirt in the trading hall, right in the center, groveling and pulling at a supermarket purchasing manager in a suit, refusing to let go. Manager Li, boss, please have mercy and buy them. These are pure, natural mountain apples. Although they are a bit small this year due to the drought, the price is absolutely cheap. I won't sell them by the box. I'll weigh them by the pound. 30 cents, no, 20 cents a pound. Just give me whatever you want, and you can just drive the trucks away. Old man, are you in the wrong place? Are you treating our province's most high-end fresh produce market as a garbage recycling station? These defective goods that even pigs wouldn't eat. How do you have the nerve to haul them into the market? If these were put on the shelves of our supermarket chain, wouldn't our supermarket's reputation be ruined? Passing vendors and cold chain truck drivers stopped in their tracks, bursting into laughter and pointing fingers. Yeah, the old man must be crazy for money. He didn't even look at what kind of goods the market accepts now. Open your eyes wide and see what standards the high-end market requires now. Qin Yan looked up, following manager Leah's pointing finger, and on the giant screen, it was playing on a loop. A beautifully produced corporate promotional video showed fully automated sprinkler systems shooting out rainbows in the sunlight, while integrated fertigation pipes precisely moistened every inch of soil. Bunches of plump, round, shine muscat grapes exuded mouth-watering vitality under the high-definition lens, and at the end of the promotional video on the screen, several large, gold-stamped characters appeared before him. Founder of Qin Yan Agricultural Technology Group, Qin Yan, trembled all over. His legs went weak. See that? The organic fruits sent by Tianyan Agriculture. Now that is what you call a hot commodity. Before they were even picked, they were bought out at high prices by major merchants. Nobody wants these 3 truckloads of trash you brought, even if you pay for shipping and gave them away. Manager Liu acted like he was swatting a fly, waved his hand, and turned to leave. Just then, Manager Liu suddenly put on an extremely respectful and flattering smile and hurried toward the transparent glass corridor above the trading hall. That was the market management office, a VIP meeting room set up specifically for top-tier clients. Qin Yan stared blankly in the direction Manager Liu was running. Through the massive soundproof floor-to-ceiling glass of the VIP room, he saw several bosses in suits and leather shoes sitting around a long mahogany table. Sitting in the seat of honor was me. Across the noisy crowd of the trading hall, Qin Yan's eyes met mine. I didn't give him a victor's smile, nor any angry accusations. I simply used an extremely calm gaze and gave him a faint glance, looking at him as if he were an insignificant speck of dust by the roadside. Qin Yan's lips began to tremble violently. Suddenly, he clutched his chest tightly with both hands and let out an extremely shrill, desperate dry howl. Then, his eyes rolled back, and he slumped right into his pile of rotten, sour-smelling apples. Qin Yan suffered a stroke and was paralyzed. By the time Lu Yuan Company's legal team arrived, still lying in his dilapidated home. Manager Wang brought a collection team and a court summons, blocking the village entrance again. The irrigation pipes in the fields had already been dug up to pay off, but that was far from enough to cover the so-called 500,000 penalty fee. This time, Manager Wang bared the most greedy fangs of capital. He took out a thick stack of land transfer mortgage agreements and forced the villagers to sign. If you can't pay cash, then use your orchard contracting rights to pay off the debt. Once you sign, these hundreds of acres of land will belong to our Li Yuan Company. You can either get out of the village or stay and work for us as daily wage temp workers. Hundreds of villagers looked ashen. The elderly sat on the ground, wailing bitterly. Losing their land was equal to losing their very lifeblood. Auntie Wang desperately protected her land deed, crying her heart out. Ah, village chief, we can't sign this. If we sign it, we'll truly become homeless beggars. We can't sign it. At worst, I'll lay down my old life. Fellow villagers, follow me to the city to beg Qin Yan. In this whole world right now, he's the only one who can save our lives. In the face of utter despair, dignity was long since worthless. Dozens of village representatives scraped together their last bit of travel money, rented 2 rundown open-bed trucks, bumped along for 3 hours in the biting autumn wind, and arrived outside the gates of my Tianyan Agricultural Technology Group in the suburbs. Qin Yan, Boss Qin, the villagers have come to kowtow to you. When my secretary saw this on the monitor and ran to report to me, I was sitting in the conference room reading the provincial agricultural weather report. I walked to the floor-to-ceiling window and looked down outside the gate at the group of villagers kneeling uniformly on the asphalt road, their foreheads pressed against the freezing ground. Their former greed had long been crushed to dust by a harsh reality check. I threw on my trench coat, took the legal director and several security guards, pushed open the grand electric gate, and walked out. Seeing me come out, the village chief stood up, his old face streaming with tears. Little Yan, we know we were wrong. We were scammed out of everything by Qin Yan and that shady company, and now we can't even keep our land. Please be magnanimous and save the village. Even if we have to work like horses and cattle for you, as long as we can keep the land. Village chief, back when you all stamped your red fingerprints and forced me to leave, I remember saying that life, death, fortune, and misfortune were up to fate. To greedily chase after those fake petty gains You easily handed the entire village's lifeblood over to scammers. Not only did you crush my hard work, but you also destroy your own way out. You were originally supposed to swallow this bitter fruit yourselves, but my Qin ancestors are buried on that land where my father is buried. I, Qin Ye, can turn my back on Qin Mankang, but I cannot watch the village that raised me be drained dry by capitalist swindlers under the guise of technology. Xiao Ye, are you willing to help us? I am not running a charity. I am a businessman. If you want my help, from now on, all the rules in the village, I will have the final say. President Zhang, notify the convoy to bring all the evidence and files and follow me back to the village. Today, I want to see who dares to covet the land of my Qin Yes hometown. An hour later, 5 black commercial vehicles, carrying an irresistible sense of oppression, drove mightily into the village committee compound, completely blocking Manager Wang's debt collection convoy inside. The car doors opened. I stepped out in a crisp suit, followed by 2 elite lawyers in suits. Manager Wang was stunned when he saw me, then recognized me as the new magnate of the provincial agricultural circle. His expression changed, but he still put on a calm face and came over. Oh, isn't this President Qin of Qin Yan Group? You're returning home in glory. However, today is the day our Luyuan company lawfully collects debts. Are you trying to interfere with normal judicial procedures? Debt collection? President Zhang, read it to him. According to the authoritative appraisal of the Provincial Bureau of Quality and Technical Supervision, the internal motor of the so-called smart IoT water pump your company sold to this village is actually a refurbished industrial waste motor. Power output is falsely inflated by 300%, and it has not obtained the National 3C mandatory safety certification. This is an out-and-out counterfeit and shoddy product. Nonsense. We have a contract. A contract? I sneered. Given that your company used shoddy products for false advertising, signed dual contracts, and illegally added hidden charges, you are suspected of major commercial fraud. Our Qin Yan Group has officially represented all the villagers in reporting this to the Economic Crimes Detachment of the Municipal Public Security Bureau. My legal director behind me added. Let me add one more thing. My legal team will fight this lawsuit to the bitter end until we strip off your company's last layer of skin and send your legal representative to prison. Now take your people and get out of my village. Manager Wang, looking at the legal team ready for battle behind me, and then at the villagers who clenched their fists again because they now had a backbone, knew he had hit a real brick wall this time. He didn't dare to say another word and fled the village with his collection team in disgrace. The entire village committee compound erupted in thunderous crying and cheering. Countless villagers bowed deeply in my direction. This time, the gratitude in their eyes had no impurities at all, driving them away. Luyuan Company only solved the village's urgent needs. To truly revive this land, it still needed a complete overhaul. The next day, Tianyan Group's engineering convoy drove into the village. They not only brought a brand new, top-standard, large-caliber irrigation pipe network, but also brought back the traditional old motor that I had hauled away back then. However, after being upgraded by my farm's technical team, it is now equipped with a real variable frequency control system. Accompanied by the steady and powerful roar of the old motor, water gushed out again along the new pipe network. When it irrigated the cracked orchards, the whole village stood at the edge of the fields, letting the water splash on their faces, crying like children. But this water is no longer a free lunch. The water is running, but the old rules must change. The past days where I contributed money and effort while you sat idle and enjoyed the fruits are gone forever. From today on, Tianyan Group will completely take over the village's water conservancy facilities. Water fees will be charged at the lowest cost on the market, not a penny more, not a penny less. At the same time, as long as you are willing, you can all join my ecological supply chain. Thank you. I will provide free technical guidance and high-quality seeds. The only requirement is this. You must plant strictly according to Tianyan's pollution-free standards. The private use of banned pesticides and fertilizers is absolutely not allowed. As long as you can grow good products, in autumn, Tianyan Group will buy them all at a guaranteed price 20% higher than the market rate. If anyone cuts corners and ruins the village's reputation, they will be immediately removed from the cooperation list and permanently blacklisted. There is no charity, only cooperation. There is no spoiling, only rules. This is the truest respect for them, and also the longest-lasting salvation. The village chief, with trembling hands, was the first on the cooperation agreement to solemnly sign his name and press his red fingerprint. Xiao Ye, the lives of everyone in our village are all given by you. From now on, everyone in the village, wherever you point, that's where we'll go. If anyone dares to be disloyal again, it'll break their legs myself. Hundreds of villagers waited in long lines with no scrambling and no complaining. Everyone's face was filled with awe, gratitude, and hope for a new life. On that day, countless red thumbprints covered the agreements, sealing the joy of a village's rebirth. 3 years later, the once-in-a-century drought was long gone. The once lifeless and nearly destitute valley that was almost drained dry by capital had undergone a massive transformation. The wastelands and dead trees across the mountains were completely cleared. They were replaced by standardized terraced orchards planned by Qin Yan Group. In spring, the scent of peach and pear blossoms across the mountains was as brilliant as rosy clouds. By autumn, premium fruits hanging heavily from the branches exuded an intoxicating sweetness. Thanks to Qin Yan Group's high-end cold chain logistics, the village's fruits entered premium supermarkets in major cities nationwide directly, and the villagers' income surged fivefold compared to the past. Young people who had left to work in the cities flocked back. Every household rebuilt their homes and bought cars. The village echoed with laughter and joy every day. And at the newly expanded, magnificent modern water pump, stationed at the village entrance, the villagers chipped in voluntarily to erect a tall bluestone monument. It contained no flattering nonsense, but merely 8 large characters. When drinking water, remember the source. Build trust, build the soul. It was the village's deep-rooted repentance and their greatest respect for me. One early autumn evening, I drove back to the village myself to inspect this year's fruit harvest. As soon as the car reached the village entrance, it was surrounded by enthusiastic villagers. Aunt Wang insisted on stuffing a basket of the freshly picked, largest, reddest apples into my trunk, holding my hand with red, teary eyes. Mr. Qin, taste this year's fruits. They're so sweet. Without you, we wouldn't have these good days. I smiled, accepted the apples, and warmly greeted the villagers, feeling this long-lost sense of community. However, when passing by a dilapidated red brick ruin at the end of the village, I spotted a familiar silhouette. It was my uncle, Qin Yan. He sat in a rusty, broken wheelchair, covered in dirt, holding a chipped bowl. My aunt had run away. Qin Lei was still serving time in prison, and after his paralyzing stroke, he barely survived on a meager monthly allowance given by the village. With a crooked mouth and cloudy eyes, he stared fixedly at the joyful, bustling scene. He once tried to push the whole village into the abyss for 100,000 yuan. Now, under my leadership, the entire village was moving towards common prosperity, while he alone was forever isolated from this prosperity and happiness. This was the cruelest, yet most just retribution for him. I didn't stop. Stepping on the gas, the car drove smoothly past those ruins. The scent of fruit wafted in through the window with the evening breeze. Looking at this vibrant land, I felt an unprecedented sense of peace and fulfillment in my heart. A true champion doesn't crush the wicked in the mud, but rather pulls themselves out, establishes new rules, crushes lies with absolute strength, and uses a broad vision to reshape the soul of a land. This fruitful land had finally ushered in its smooth path. And with this weighty social responsibility, I too walked toward a broader future.